Hi, everybody. It's Amy Caroline again. Welcome back to a brand new video and welcome back to my channel. So it is time for another ghost train story. It's time for Ghost Train. It is time for another ghost train story. It is time for another ghost train story. I am right now going to read a story for you guys, I'm gonna read a story for you guys, and and it will give you an example. It's going to give you an example of how Ghost Train should look like, and what it should look like on the Travel Channel when you guys film it on there. Okay, when you guys film it on there. Um, um, it will give you an example of how Ghost Train, of what Ghost Train should look like on the Travel Channel when it gets, when it gets, filmed on there for you guys. Okay. All right. So the story that I'll be reading is called Phantom Track Layers at Sinks of Dove Creek. Phantom Track Layers at Sinks of Dove Creek. I am going to read Sinks of Dove Creek, Phantom Track Layers at Sinks of Dove Creek, and it takes place during the 1970s, stuff like that. It takes place back in the 1970s, and over here, this part right here takes place in the 1860s too. So Phantom Track Layers at Sinks of Dove Creek. Here we go. Sinks of Dove Creek is the site of an old Central Pacific labor camp once used by the Chinese workers who built the first transitional railroad across California, Nevada, and Utah. During the late 1970s, a park ranger was participating in a historical reenactment at Sinks of Dove Creek. The ranger and his friends were dressed in enthusiastic Army uniforms like those used by the 21st okay, let's see. Infantry, yeah. The Army unit assigned to protect the Central Pacific workers back in the 1860s. So here we go. 1860s. The Ranger had to five the Ranger had 2 to 5 a.m. guard duty at the reenactment camp. He patrolled and back and forth along the abandoned Central Pacific grade running above the encampment. The other men were all asleep. Dying campfires flickered below, reflecting off the encampment tents. The guard found himself thinking how time was almost reserved, how everything looked just as it must have during the building of the transitional um railroad, yeah. That's when he heard the sound of a muff whirl off in the distance. Suddenly a far off light, like that of a kerosene lantern, appeared swinging side to side across the grade. As it got closer, the ranger could make the whirring out more clearly. It sounded like a steam engine approaching him down the old grade train tracks, although there wasn't nothing to be seen. Then it was running right over him. The ranger couldn't believe his ears. He couldn't see it, couldn't feel it, but he heard the old steam engine as clearly as if it was 1869 again. Rattled by the uncanny experience, the ranger made his way back to camp. He sat huddled in front of a fire near the tents, trying to calm himself down. Finally, he decided to take out his guard duty no matter what happened. He walked back up onto the old Central Pacific grade. This time his experience was different. He was surrounded by whispers and soft footsteps, overcoming his fear enough to listen closely. The ranger realized the voices were speaking in Chinese. One word he kept hearing was "A Melican, A Melican." The hair rose on his neck and arms. And when he realized the invisible Central Pacific workers were talking about him, the ranger thought about the sounds. He knew that the soldiers of the 21st Infantry had protected Chinese workers in this very camp. Had the reenactment turned back the pages of time in some way? The ranger shook his head, then considerated again on the ghostly noises all over around him. He heard railroad work sounds, the dual thuds of spikes being hammered into ties, the soft footsteps of Chinese workers, and the heavy tread of Anglos. As he looked down the grade, the ranger saw an eerie sight. The grade was covered with pinpricks of light. As he watched the spectacle, he realized the lights must be sparks glancing from spikes and rails as the ghostly workers hammered down the Central Pacific track. And an event that happened 110 years before. After his experience, the ranger became fascinated with his history of the Sinks of Dove Creek area, which near Kelton, Utah, and the Golden Spike National Historic Site. He talked with people who hunt in the area and learned that they knew of the ghostly workers, that he wasn't the only person who'd ever witnessed the phenomena. Many people were reluctant to use the dirt road that follows the old grade. Yeah, they believed that they believed the ghost train might run them down. Others had heard the had heard the voices of the phantom workers. The ranger even unearthed stories old railroad engineers told about the time when the track running by Sinks of Dove Creek was still in use. Engineers had heard ghost trains coming towards them on their runs through the desert near Sinks of Dove Creek. Some of the ghost trains had even carried lights, unnerving the train crews who would prepare for a terrible collision. When the real train made its emergency stop, the other train would keep coming despite efforts to warn it. Then the ghost train would pass right over the real train, headlight blaring and engine sound puffing away, and disappear off into the desert night. The ranger examined the encampment too, and realized that the men doing the reenactment had camped right on top of an old Chinese work camp. The dugouts that had served as the bottoms of the Chinese labors huts were right there. When the ranger looked through the dugouts, the hair on his neck and arms stood up again. He could feel the ghost workers there. What trick of time keeps the ghost workers struggling with spikes and rails at the Sinks of Dove Creek labor camp? The Sinks of Dove Creek, the Sinks of Dove Creek is the Sinks of Dove Creek is it is a story about the Chinese workers who built the first transitional railroad across California and Nevada and Utah. So this takes place in certain places across California and Nevada and Utah in the 1970s, and it also took place in 1869 and in the 1860s, as I said before. And when the ranger in the 1970s when the ranger in the 1970s was there, when he was there camping out in the desert or something, he that's when he heard the sound of a muffled roar off in the distance. Suddenly a far off light, like the kerosene of a lantern, appeared, swinging side to side across the railroad grade. And as it got closer, the ranger could make the whirring out more clearly. It sounded like a steam engine approaching him down the old grade of the train tracks. Although there was nothing to be seen, but he could hear it though. He could hear it. He could hear it. You know, he could hear it. He could hear it. Then it was running right over him. The ranger couldn't believe his ears. He couldn't see it, couldn't feel it, but he could hear the old steam engine as clearly as if it was 1869 again. Rattled by the uncanny experience, the ranger made his way back to camp. He sat huddled in front of a fire near the tents, trying to calm himself down. Finally, he decided to stay out his guard duty no matter what happened. He walked back up onto the old Central Pacific grade. This time his experience was different. He was surrounded by whispers and soft footsteps this time. Overcoming his fear enough to listen closely, the ranger realized the voices were speaking in Chinese. One word he kept hearing was Melican, The hair rose on his neck and arms when he realized the invisible Central Pacific workers were talking about him. So he was hearing voices after he heard the steam engine. So when you guys when you guys then he heard railroad work sounds, the dual thuds of spike being hammered into ties, the soft footsteps of Chinese workers, and the heavy tread of Anglos. So he heard that too. He heard that too. That too. He heard that too. Okay. So when you put Ghost Train on the Travel Channel, be sure please be sure that you put this episode, Phantom Track Layers at Sinks of Dove Creek, and please put the park ranger in there. Please let the story go back in time to the 1970s and the 1860s also, and please include California, Nevada, and Utah, because that's where it takes place in, so please include that. Okay? All right? So, I hope you guys enjoyed this story. Now, I am going to show you an example of how Ghost Train should look like on the Travel Channel. And I'm going to show you an example from the previous TV show that they used to have on there, Haunted Hotels. And it will give you an example of how Ghost Train should look like on the Travel Channel when it gets filmed on there by you guys, okay? When it gets filmed on the Travel Channel, and when the Travel Channel company films it on the Travel Channel, when you guys film it on when you guys film it on there, please be sure you put the phantom track layers of Sinks of Dove Creek on there, okay? Okay? And let the story go back in time, okay? Because that's what you're going to... that's what you're about to see on the previous TV show that they used to have called Haunted Hotels. You'll see the apparitions of the ghost. You'll see the story going back in time to the 1800s, and that's that is how Ghost Train should look like. Okay, that is what I'm trying to talk about. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Okay. So let the story go back in time. Let the apparitions and the ghost appear on the screen, and just let it be shown. Okay. So here's Haunted Hotels.
Telling ghost stories can be fun around a campfire. But when the ghosts are the ones talking, it's positively terrifying. From adultery to murder, these hotels hold dark secrets, stories that would have been lost forever, locked within these walls. But history comes alive again as the ghosts of the past return to tell their tales. In this luxury London hotel, guests say a ghostly murderer returns to the site of his evil deed.
He was terrified I wouldn't go back into that room.
In Massachusetts, two sisters loved the same man. Now it seems they're back from the dead to continue their feud.
I never fail to feel that very uncomfortable feeling, like someone is saying, go away, we want to be alone.
And in the South, the vision of a female spectre shatters the calm of this French Quarter courtyard.
I'll never stay in Cottage 4. Never.
This is a world where stories, once silenced by death, come back to life. Where spirits speak. Each day, the streets of London are filled with tourists. From historical sites to nightlife, this city has it all, including plenty of rain.
Well, it's nice to see that the English summer has once more returned to us, and it's pouring with rain yet again. But that might account for why London is the most haunted capital city in the world.
The misty sky and rolling fog create the perfect setting for a haunted tale and a jolly old London ghost tour.
For many is the late-night wanderer who's walking around this quarter of the old city when they found themselves confronted by the strange sight of a
Ghost tours trek through the city, stopping everywhere from the famous Tower of London to a quaint local pub. It seems there isn't a sight in this city without a ghostly tale.
The Romans left in AD 410, and since then we've had nigh on 2,000 years of demolition and rebuilding. And if you think about it, there's not one square inch of the city where when you walk across it, you're not walking on the tangible memories, the remains of millions of people who've lived on that site, walked across that site.
Many believe that rich and varied past carries an added bonus.
Ghosts only appear in places with not only the great happiness or great sadness. And if you think about it, London has it all.
Aside from a rich history, modern London has much to offer. Theatre, nightlife, and world-class shopping. And in the heart of the shopping district, the Langham Hilton.
We are literally about 3 blocks, about 3 minutes walk from Oxford Circus. Over there you have Oxford Street, you have Regent Street and Bond Street, Selfridges and all of the famous shopping areas of London. In its time, this was considered the utmost of luxury.
The Langham opened its doors in 1865, and for the past 140 years, Tradition has been a mainstay here. But some say that afternoon tea and staff in traditional dress aren't the only things that are left over from times gone by. Locals believe the hotel is haunted, and ghosts from years past lurk amid the confines of the private rooms.
We received a letter from some clients that stayed here about a year ago. It was a mother and daughter, and they were in for 3 nights, and on the 3rd night both felt a presence, and the beds were shaking.
The shaking roused the women, and out of the darkness, an evil set of eyes was staring at them.
Obviously frightened both of them to the point where they didn't even talk about it until they were on the journey back home.
Several other guests have reported similar experiences, and while the hauntings are not always alike, they often happen in the same room.
We're actually standing outside the most famous room in the hotel at the moment. This is room 333, which is allegedly one of our very haunted rooms.
But who is this spirit who haunts room 333? Staff here say it's the soul of a killer, and in the late 1800s, room 333 was the site of his evil crime. A bed that shakes violently, sinister eyes that peer out of the darkness, and an evil presence that fills the room. According to eyewitness accounts, London's Langham Hilton Hotel is haunted, and the staff here believe they know the identity of the spirit that visits guests here during the night.
There's the story of this doctor.
Okay, so the story's going back in time. So you see right there,
His wife.
this is what I'm talking about.
When
The story's going
newlyweds
back
checked
in
into
time
the
right
hotel,
now.
They seemed happy and very much in love.
They had a private dinner, and it was very romantic. And obviously retired to their suite at the front of the hotel.
But behind the happy facade lay a terrible secret. Just before their nuptials, the doctor learned his wife was having an affair. But he did not confront her with the betrayal. He had another plan. His anger drove him to murder, and just one drop of poison did the trick. The young bride had no idea she was toasting their union with more than just champagne. As she lay dead in their honeymoon suite, the doctor began to realize the gravity of his deed. Did he regret what he had done? Or was he simply fearful of getting caught? No one knows for sure. But hours after he killed his wife, the doctor took his own life.
He killed her. And then he committed suicide as well.
Over a century has passed since that fateful night, and staff say the spirit of the doctor still lingers within the hotel walls. Are his ghostly tricks meant to drive out intruders? If so, it's already worked with at least one staff member. His encounter with the doctor's ghost was enough to convince him to stay far away from the guest rooms.
He was working late one night. He noticed a dark cloak disappearing around the corner of the corridor. It didn't think too much of it at the time, but went around the corner expecting it to be a member of housekeeping doing their duties. And when he went around the corner, there was no one there at all. He's still a little shaken by it, but that's probably why he works down on concierge now, with the guests as he's away from the bedrooms now.
But not everyone can simply retreat to the lighted safety of the front lobby. And so, the unsuspecting guests staying in room 333 continue to recount their terrifying experiences.
In the early hours, he was woken, and on the opposite side of the room, he could see it like a fluorescent ball of light hovering in midair. And it was drifting very slowly towards him. And as it did so, it took on the form of a man in full evening dress. And he watched the man come towards him, and then he called out, "Who are you? What do you want?" And this seemed to annoy the spirit because it came at him a lot faster. And he panicked and leapt out of bed, and whereupon the spirit disappeared. But he then was terrified and wouldn't go back into that room.
Is it the doctor? Or is another spirit lurking in the dark? One member of the staff brave enough to spend the night in room 333 awoke to a loud bang. Before her eyes appeared a spirit, but this time it was a woman.
I kind of feel special that maybe there is a message there somewhere, you know.
Perhaps the doctor's wife still lingers at the site of her cruel death, determined to protect female guests from a fate like her own.
I can only draw from myself and say maybe she's sort of warning us.
Whatever their intent, staff say the ghosts of the Langham remain, forever tied to the site of their tragic demise.
It would be odd, I suppose, if we were to be asked and we had no history of any ghosts. I think it is quite accepted that a building of this kind, of that age, have ghosts.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, okay? That is how the story has to go back in time, just like you saw right there. That's what has to happen in Ghost Train. That's what has to happen in Ghost Train, okay? When the TV show Ghost Train, when you guys put the title of the TV show Ghost Train or Ghost Train Legends, whatever you want to call it, whatever you guys call it when you put it on there, that is what Ghost Train has to do, okay? And also that is what Phantom Track Layers at Sinks of Dove Creek has to do too, okay? The story that I just read, okay? So and that's what it has to look like. That's what Ghost Train has to look like, okay? Just like Haunted Hotels was, just like you saw on Haunted Hotels, Ghost Train has to have the spirits appearing on the screen and the story going back in time, okay? And also, like you saw my other Ghost Train stories, like the other Ghost Train stories that I just read, that I've been reading earlier this year. Just like the Ghost Train stories that I've been reading, those stories have to go back in time also, okay? And the apparitions have to appear on the screen when the ghosts do, okay? All right? So So yeah. So the when you put when you put Ghost Train on TV, when you put Ghost Train on TV, when you put Ghost Train on TV, whenever you guys film the documentary, that is what you guys have to put in, okay? Put the spirits in there, put the ghost in there, and let the story go back in time, like you saw in haunted hotels, and like you guys saw, okay? All right. So please remember that. Please remember to do that. Please remember to do that when you guys film Ghost Train, and also when you guys film Ghost Train, okay? All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. This will be on Instagram and YouTube. This will be on Instagram and YouTube and maybe on Facebook, I think. I don't know, but give this video a thumbs up and ring the bell for notifications. And I will see you guys later for the next Ghost Train story, okay? Okay, bye everybody. Bye.